girl. We know. I just told him that. Let's see. Live. In the group. All right. We're getting further than we got last time. Uh-oh. We streaming live, y'all. Let's see.
Yay!
I know, right? We make sure it's in the group before we get started. And we are in the group. Also, something that I failed to mention to you ladies, if you're in the group, check the comments because I may miss it and somebody may ask us a question or something to that effect. So if you can, help me be the eyes and the ears, okay? All right, so listen, welcome to panel 2, the second panel of the tailor-made HBC, y'all, and I have some amazing speakers with me. I have a couple of returns and I have a couple of new ones, and I'm excited about this conversation. This is a hot button subject, y'all. And I mean, it gets kind of messy, but we're going to give you some practical advice or maybe some practical things to do when this issue comes up. So before we get started though, I want to make sure that I introduce everybody. So I'm going to start from left to right, just the way my screen is looking. And we have Kizzy right there at the top. Okay. We have Jania Otey. Okay. And then we have Kimberly Tardy. And we have Miss Kiyana Thomas. Okay. And listen, again, I'm going to put it like this. Again, I've worked with Kimberly before. Kimberly are very familiar with each other. She has worked closely with me in this conference. The other ladies, this is my first time working with you. It's been a good experience. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to connect with other ladies that look like me, which is something that doesn't happen often in the homeschooling community. We're kind of here and there versus us all in one place. And so I'm excited about connecting with each of you. So here's the subject, okay? All honesty, be transparent, right? We chilling, we at the house, okay? We having this conversation. Whatever you got in your cup, you got in your cup. Coffee, tea, Dr. Pepper, Sprite, water, whatever it is. But we talking, okay? And I come to you and I say, girl, my in-laws think I shouldn't be homeschooling. And every time they come over here, they have something to say about me homeschooling. What's your advice? Who's gonna go first?
All right. Hey guys, this is Kiyana. I'll go first. I was always waiting, but I didn't hear anybody jump in. So I said, let me do that. So for me, I'm really laid back. I'm really easygoing. And so if that conversation comes up, if it's disrespectful, then I will handle the disrespect and I will let them know, hey, that hurt my feelings. And I'm very open and honest. If someone said something that hurt my feelings, because I think communication, we kind of lose the art of communicating and actually sharing how we feel or why someone did something or said something that hurt our feelings. So it gets lost in the mix, right? So I'm just upfront and I'm just honest. If they said something like, why would you say that? You know, that hurt my feelings because this is what I chose to do for my children. Now that's if that's a relationship that I care about to nurture. If it's a relationship I don't care about, then I'm just gonna let it ride.
Okay, that's Kizzy, and I wouldn't let it ride. I wouldn't let it ride at all. You're gonna get the business, and not disrespectfully get the business, but you're gonna know how I feel about the situation.
No, I don't mean let it ride like let it go. I mean you're gonna get the business. That's what I mean. I mean let it ride like let it go. Never. Okay. Because this is what I feel about when we let things go. I really honestly believe that we teach people how to treat us. And so if someone doesn't treat us in the way that we expect and we don't speak up, we're telling them that that behavior is okay. So no matter who you are, whether it's a relationship that I want or I don't want, if it's something that I am like standing firm on, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to let you know that like, hey, this is not up for discussion. This is what I chose to do in my household. And that's going to be that. Ooh, now, if they want to talk about it, because sometimes people really don't know, right? And so they're asking for understanding. They're really trying to seek understanding, but then sometimes they're throwing jabs and they're trying to convince you to do otherwise. So if they're trying to do that, then that's a whole nother topic. We need to have a different conversation because you're really not concerned.
Yeah,
you just
You said some really good key points.
Very good stuff.
I think for me, the thing is that I am I'm a very straightforward person. And the problem with that though is that sometimes I tend to hurt people's feelings not intentionally, unintentionally. And so one of the things that I tell my clients all the time when you have that issue is when it's your husband, see, it's a different issue, right? Okay. Because you want to be on the same page. So whatever you got to do to get on the same page, that's what you need to do, because that's not going to work without it. Now, when it's people outside of the home, I've always been, these are the children that God blessed me with. I've prayed, I've studied, I've researched, I've meditated, whatever it is that you believe, but I've done this and we believe that this is the best decision for our children. And that's it. Like, to me, we don't have to keep talking about it. And
That's
you bet not question my kids, ask them what 3 plus 5 is. You bet not, because listen, I'm that mama. You go ask my baby what 3 plus 5 is, and I'm finna go find your baby, and I'm finna ask them what 3 plus 5 is.
That's right.
So does anybody else have any information or comments on that?
Yeah, I agree not to take it personal. If for me, I feel not to take it personal. Some people are just ignorant about the topic. They really don't understand, and they need, just clarity about what it is about. Because I know when I initially started posting years ago on Facebook, and people like, what are you doing? How are you doing that? Is that legal? Just didn't know. So, but I wouldn't take it personal. I'll stick to my why. Like you said, you state what it is that you do, and this is my reason. We've already come to the decision. Hey, that's that. Hold on to your why. And don't even give into the drama, because I don't feel like we have anything to prove.
See, and sometimes I do feel like y'all, I'm like the one who, I'm not saying, I don't like for people to be mistreated. Okay. And so just because you don't understand, or your lack of understanding of what homeschooling is, doesn't mean that you get to mistreat me. And so I get the ignorance part of it, just not knowing. But then you got those people that are really trying to, like Kiyana said, just trying to throw shade. And so those are people I'm not here for. What you got, Jania?
Yeah, I agree. Disrespect is a whole different thing. That's a whole nother topic altogether. And then when you violate our relationship in that manner because it's disrespect, then that's a whole different standard. But also, I wouldn't allow anybody to have this discussion, especially like if it's a mother-in-law or some close family, a grandparent or something like that. We're not going to have this discussion in front of my kids either. Yeah. Okay, because that's something we need to pull to the side, because I don't need you questioning, authority to authority in front of the children and having them question, what's going on, and maybe we shouldn't be doing this. No. We're going to pull it to the side and say, no, I reserve the right. We'll talk about this later or another time. Something that we're going to respect the space, and this is our home, or whatever the environment is. But this is what we're doing, and I'm not going to let you upset the apple cart. Just not.
See, I never thought about not doing it for kids.
I think that sometimes people ask questions like that, or question, your motives for homeschooling, or why you're homeschooling, out of just pure ignorance. Because up until the pandemic, it's like the pandemic came and then the world got woke about homeschooling all of a sudden. And we've been doing this for, a long time already. And I can remember when we made the decision to homeschool, I come from a family of educators, and they had questions, right? But they also understood the dynamics of what was going on, in the public school system. So when people ask questions like that, I just chalk it up to, you're really not informed. I've done the research, and we're going to move forward and do what we think is best for our family. And I always tell people, because, they ask that question like, so you homeschool, do you plan to homeschool, all the way through high school? Like, it's just some type of, you can't possibly do that. And I used to feel very overwhelmed, by that question. And once I thought about my answer to it, and my honest answer was, you know what? I'm going to assess how my children are doing, and I'm going to assess how I'm doing every year. And if at some point I don't think it's a good fit we're talking about that tailor-made fit. If it's not a good fit for me and for my family, we'll pivot. But I've done the research. I'm the educator. You're not doing it, right? So you can kind of sit back and watch, you know,
That
and
was
see
nice
what
way of
happens.
saying, let me do what I do. That was real nice.
That's right.
I got this,
That's
fam.
right.
Let me do what I do. If I remember correctly, Jania, you're an attorney, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
Listen, see, that's a whole nother conversation. That is a whole nother conversation. It's interesting. The only reason why I say that is with you being an attorney, I wonder if they take what you're saying, I guess more like for truth, because, you know, oh, she's an attorney, she's educated, so she knows what she's talking about. Do you know what I mean?
You're kind of going in and out, so I got bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
But you know, the flip side, I think I heard most of it, like people assume, you know, because you have this level of education, you got it. But you know what I got was, you went to law school and you spent all that money and you're doing what? You're gonna stay home with your kids? Like, why did you leave that 6-figure job? Or why did you even go to school? And they just don't understand, like, that money, that job, that compares nothing to the pricelessness. I mean, just the precious moments and the value that you get out of homeschooling. Like, you can't put a price tag on it.
Yeah.
And I would leave that 6-figure job all over again.
Yes.
I'm gonna piggyback off Jania. I am going to be your blunt friend, your outspoken friend. So this is outspoken Kimmy talking right now. When your family don't agree, cut them off. I had an aunt who approached me and said, you left the pharmacy to become a nurse. You left that 6-figure job to do this. Now you're finna leave this nursing job to stay at home with your baby. And I figured, you know, I was gonna stay at home with him. I was grieving. The other parent had died and it was just me and this baby. Then I was like, you know, I'm gonna homeschool. All heck broke loose. Why are you gonna homeschool? Oh my God, you know, there's a private school here. What about the private school you went to? Let's go to all these different private schools. So, healthy boundaries, I cut them off. And as far as I wonder, is Billy's learning? I can show you better than I can tell you. So when my 10-year-old is doing the square roots or something, and your 10-year-old is just now struggling with fractions, you know, I just leave it at that. I can show you better than I can tell you.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. I'm
I
sorry.
say the same thing. The proof's in the pudding. You know, it's nothing to validate. The children are doing well. They're thriving in so many ways. It's hardly a comparison to me. And, you know, when you look at the grand scheme of things, even in comparison, you know, the classroom setting to what they're getting, that one-on-one individual attention, you know, you just can't get that. That's really tailor-made. It's really customized for them according to their individual talent, gifts, bent, interests, all of those things. I mean, it pales in comparison. Like the ratio, just the student teacher ratio alone.
Yeah.
Just that one thing makes all the difference in how much they absorb and are getting from their learning by having that tailor-made education at home. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think it's I've said this before, but the way our journey started, I think I said it earlier, as a matter of fact, you know, it was never in our plan to homeschool our children. Like, I was working at a Fortune 500 company. I had started when I was 19 years old, part-time, had made it all the way up to management and was in a leadership position and was like, I'm going for gold. I'm not like, I had no plan in my life to homeschool my children, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And I honestly believe it is the hardest job that I will ever love. Like, I love it. Some days are hard. Some days I want to fight. Some days I don't want to teach. Some days I want to stay in the bed, but I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I would not trade it for the world.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Go ahead. So now we have the conversation about the outside, but now say it's your boo thing, say it's your husband, okay? And he's letting you do it, right? But he's kind of like, he walks in, he's like, are they really learning? Is this really working? How do you respond to your spouse in that type of situation?
Well, I can go. This is Kiyana, and What's funny about this question is I actually lived it. I actually lived this scenario, the start of the pandemic. So quick story, quick background. We moved states. So we moved across state lines. We were once in North Carolina. I homeschooled my children from school. And I also was teaching, like I was a teacher before homeschooling. And so everyone, again, thought I was crazy because I'm doing all of these things as teaching. Not only was I a teacher, I'm a national board certified teacher with my master's degree and former teacher of the year. So I wasn't just a teacher, I was doing big things in the classroom. So to leave that and to come home and homeschool my children, they're like, girl, are you crazy? So when I straightened everyone out, like, okay, this topic is not up for discussion, right? I'm like, okay, this topic is not up for discussion. I was called to homeschool because no one, they thought I had bumped my head. Are you okay? Like, really? No one could understand. My husband at that time was supportive. But when we moved across state lines, and also let me put up there, I don't like to say I was diagnosed with a chronic illness. So I don't like to say I have, because I believe your words have power. So say I was diagnosed with a chronic illness. And so people on the outside was saying, you know, you're moving across state lines and it'd be better for you to put them in school, give yourself a break and da, 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 da. Now, mind you, I was never complaining about homeschooling. I never went to them crying about homeschooling. It was like, this was what it was. So I took their advice thinking that that was the best thing to do. And as soon as they got into school setting, I realized that was a bad decision. It was a really bad decision. I was not obedient. I didn't listen. I said, the Lord had already told me to do this. And I went against what I knew he put in me to do. Mm. And so when it came time to tell my husband, like, it was one daughter at first, and she was like, no, I don't like this, like almost immediately. And that was the youngest one in school at that time. And she was in kindergarten, and she would be like crying and holding me and just not wanting to go. And he was like, well, I think she'll be okay. Just let her go, let her go. And we kind of did that for like a couple of weeks. And I just finally said to him, this is not working for her. And I don't know like what you're seeing, but I'm experiencing it and living through this trauma for her every day. And I just said to him, why? Why are we forcing her to go to school and she doesn't have to? And he sat there and he thought about it and he was like, you're right. You're like, okay. And when he was like, okay, fine. You know, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. And I actually cried that day. And it wasn't because it was like him giving permission, because we had this conversation too. We had the whole submissive wife conversation and all of that. And I'm like, okay, people get this scripture wrong.
Ooh, listen, that's a whole nother conversation.
This wrong. And it is not about that. So we talked about that because he was disagreeing and I was disagreeing with them being in school. So I said, that's not what that means. That means we have to come together. We have to go to the word. We have to figure out how to make this work where we both agree. It's not your word over my word. How can we make this agree? Yeah. So we came to the table and basically outlined the pros and cons. Okay, what are the benefits here? What are the benefits here? Blah, blah, blah. And this was right before COVID. And I was like, the Holy Spirit, I was like, it is pulling me to pull the kids out of school. And he was like, what do you think is going to happen? The school he literally said, you think the school going to get shot up or something? I said, I don't know. He said that because I was like, no, it has to happen now. Because the thing that he put on the table was wait until next school year to pull them out. And I was like, no, it has to happen now. No, we're not waiting till next school year. It has to happen now. So finally he was like, okay, I don't know what's going on with you, but you're adamant about this and let's do it. Okay, fine. So he finally was like on board with it. But it took some time and it took some constant, me not letting up, me not being okay with him saying, well, if I'm the head of the household, no, that's not how that works. We need to come together and make an agreement together. Yeah. And we sat down and we did that. And he finally was okay, let's do this. And I kid you not, right after I pulled them out, the pandemic hit.
Oh, wow.
I kid you not. So, I mean, they had been there a couple of months, but then in between that time, it was like, they need to come out. And he was like, I don't know. I was like, no, they need to come out. Come on.
Yeah.
And so just having that conversation and being firm and understanding what you know and you believe, even if everyone else around you, no matter who they are telling you the opposite. So I was firm on knowing that, and I did not waver.
Yeah.
And he was able to see my point and see my view.
Yeah, I think sometimes too in relationships, and this is, we're going to have a marriage and homeschooling conversation later on, but sometimes we forget that we are wise as well, and God gives us a certain wisdom as well, and we see things too. And so it's you're absolutely correct, being unwavering. Like, okay, normally it's like, well, I don't really care about this, so I can back off. But then when you get that feeling like, no, I got to fight this tooth and nail, that, that's where that wisdom comes in. There's something you're feeling, you're hearing, Holy Spirit has spoken to you in some type of way, telling you that something is going on or something's wrong or something needs to change. I completely agree with that. Completely agree. I'm gonna look in the comments real quick. Let's see what we got. We've got, hey Camille, thank you for joining us. Jazzy, thank you for joining us. JeQuithia is in the comments as well. Jazzy said, I know that's right. Don't be asking my babies either. Let's see. JeQuithia says, this is good stuff. And Kizzy is in the comments saying, weigh the pros and cons. That was a really good, yeah, weighing the pros and cons. Does anybody have anything else to add to that, guys?
I wanted to make a suggestion. Thankfully, my husband was completely on board. And Sean, like you, I thought when my children were school age, I was going to send them off and I was going to get my me time back. And circumstances just changed my mind quickly, just knowledge about the schools and doing my own research. But I would say if you have a spouse who is not on board, definitely be in prayer about it. And
Not a prayer.
we can talk about a trial period, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're not on board with it right now. I understand your concerns, as we've listed the pros and cons that were mentioned, but allow me to try this. He might not be fully on board to help with the teaching and all of that, but allow me to try this for a period of time. Agree to a period, a year, 6 months, whatever it may be, and then come back and assess how things are going. Now, one thing I would do, like in between that time, which I've done with my own relatives, is I like my kids to review with their grandparents and review with other family members. So I'm not showing off, but they can see what they're learning. And it's part of our schooling anyway for them to review. So, you can kind of get them on board a little bit if that's important to you. But I think that trial period is helpful. And it's almost like a negotiation, kind of like, I understand your concern and I understand that you went to public school and so did I. But let's try this and let's be in prayer about it together. So that's
well, I was going to ask you too, you mentioned a trial period, which is really good. And I wanted to be, you said 6 months to a year. And I think that that's actually a nice chunk of time. Because the fact of the matter, you try to homeschool for a month, that ain't gonna work. 2 3 months, that ain't gonna work. You probably will need a good 6 months to do that trial period. So that was really good. That was good information there. Kimberly, you the only one to no, Kizzy, you haven't answered this question either.
I can't speak on this subject. I'm single. I can't speak on this subject.
That's true. All right, Kizzy, what you got?
Yeah, I would definitely, like she said, go into prayer. Jania, that was really a lot of wisdom right there. And have that negotiation period, because ultimately, God gives us the wisdom to know what's best for our child. No one has a better vested interest in our children than we do ourselves. And they're given to us for a time to steward. So nobody's going to have that greater interest in their development success, academic success than we do. And so I would just try to convey that the best way possible with the spouse, like, hey, these are what these children have been given to us to steward over, and we want to give them the best opportunity possible. So yeah, just stick with it and see how it works out.
All right, y'all, this is a good conversation. I'm not gonna lie. We're going through something, I don't want to say similar, but kind of, but my husband comes home. I've got this conference going on, and y'all know I'm doing all the background stuff by myself. And so we have skipped some school days. And so we got up this week and I was like, we're not doing school. I'm tired. I've got too much on my plate. I need to get stuff ready to go. And he's like, so are we keeping track of the days that we're not schooling? And I'm like, no, like, I mean, this is Texas. We do what we want, right?
That's why I love Texas.
Yeah,
Look,
we
I'm
do
like,
what we
let me
want.
get to Texas.
Listen, but they coming for us right now. They coming for us.
I know.
They are coming.
Are they?
Yes, they are
That's
coming
everywhere.
for us.
That's going to be across the board because of COVID.
Yeah.
And kids and moms are pulling their children out of school, and money follows the children, but it doesn't follow them to homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
So they're following the money. So
Yep.
that's going to be everywhere.
They are coming for us in Texas. They are trying to change it. So basically, as homeschoolers, we're considered a private school, but we can't participate in UIL sports. So all of the high school sports. Because Texas is a big sports state, well, we've created our own, sports, homeschool sports or whatever. And so they're saying for the smaller towns that don't have the UIL programs, they want to be able to go to the local high school and participate. Well, in order to do that, they want to give them state testing, which is the standardized testing that we don't want any parts of. It's just, they're coming for us in Texas. I'm telling you that. It's on Abbott's desk right now. It passed Senate, all that. It's on Abbott's desk right now. They're coming for us.
Wow. Are you guys part of HSLDA?
Yes, that's
I am not.
Yes. I
Yeah.
love HSLDA.
Because that's the legal defense to protect you in case some regulations or legislation turns and shifts and pivots on you down the road. And, that way you'll have that type of protection that you need, because I highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm. I second that.
I'm not big on them. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not big on them. I'm not big on them or the Texas Homeschool Coalition either.
But I will tell you this, Sean, you don't have to be a paid member to utilize their services.
Oh, yeah.
And that's for everybody. So they have the paid membership, but you don't have to be a paid member. If you come into some legal issues about concerning homeschooling, you can call them and they will help you.
Yeah. So I say it one more time. Texas Homeschool Coalition is the one who brought the bill about the laws and all that stuff, adding UIL. So they're supposed to be for us. And now people who have been with them for years are finding out that they are not for us. And so that's a whole nother issue, but they're coming for us down here in Texas. So y'all pray for it.
I have a girlfriend who lives in Texas, and I was just amazed, just flabbergasted how free you guys have been over all the years. She's never had to report. The one time she said, I'm going to homeschool, withdraw them from school, and has never had to put in any type of testing records, file each year to say that I'm going to be part of homeschool. I'm like, what? We have to tell them every year, I'm going to homeschool my kids this year. These are my qualifications to homeschool. These are the subjects I'm going to cover. Like we're so regulated. And when I hear about y'all freedom in Texas, it's like, oh my gosh, y'all are free.
We do what we want. The law says we have to teach in a bona fide manner. That's what it says, bona fide. So for real, like really teach. That's it. Now, if somebody comes to your door, of course you want to have some type of proof that they're learning, but I mean, yeah, literally we do what we want.
But you know what? That my take, especially as a former educator, I just believe that's how it should be anyway. Like, these are my children. So these, like, I should have the right and the ability to do with my children how I please. However, we know that there's some crazy people out there. Sure. And so these laws
gonna be some
are really in place to protect the children who may be neglected and things like that.
And that's
let
that
be that. Don't regulate everybody else.
Yeah, it's difficult. I'm not gonna lie. I get a lot of clients, especially on that East Coast. When I get a client from the East Coast, I'm like, ooh, child, how y'all doing over there?
It's no joke.
Yeah. So this is a good conversation. I'm not gonna lie to you at all. This is really good. Let's see. Let's go back into the comments. Hey, Yolanda, thank you for joining me. Sorry. Let's see. JeQuithia says, my husband does the same thing. I'm like, dude, I'm overwhelmed and I need a break. Oh, he side eyes too. Like when we get into when y'all gonna work. I didn't even finish that comment, child, but he's watching us real close right now.
I have a question about that, Sean.
Go ahead.
When he's watching and he's asking these questions, is he willing to participate? Is he willing to school as well? or is he just questioning what's going on?
She asking somebody else because she ain't asking me. No, he ain't willing to. Now,
And see, that's my thing. Don't come at me asking me, listen, y'all, but don't come at me asking me what I'm doing. You ain't willing to help.
that's it.
Don't worry about it.
That's it.
I'm
See, and
sorry.
we bump heads a lot because he's had only 2 things to do in homeschool the whole entire time. 2 things, okay? If you follow me, you know this. I don't like history. There's some personal trauma back, with that. He loves history. He loves it. So I was like, babe, teach the kids history. That would be great. Second thing is he's a professional driver. That's what he does. Teach the kids how to drive. Ask me who's doing those 2 things. Ask me.
I already know. I already know.
So it's like, I'm like, he's like, we're big on education, babe. I know we big on education. I get it, and preparing them the way we believe they should be prepared. I get it, but mama's tired. I'm on, listen. And I was like, and we probably going to be off next week because I'm going to be exhausted. Maybe start back up Wednesday. Yeah. Just to let you know that that's what's coming. So, I mean, I was getting ready to say something, put my husband on blast. Let me mind my business. Let me get in this comments right here. Let's see. The kind of said, great looking panel tonight. I'll catch you ladies tomorrow. Lots of bad weather and tornado warnings. She's in Texas too. She's about an hour. No, she's not in Port Arthur. Is she? She's about an hour outside of Houston. Let's see. And then Sean says, I'm debating religious exemption, but I'm nervous to put a target on our backs. So that's interesting. Well, Sean, what state are you in? Because you might be putting a target on your back, but you may not be. So tell us what state that you're in if you're here. And the JeQuithia says THCS is behind this bill. I canceled my membership with them. Yeah. So a lot of people thought that they were there to, have our backs, and they're finding out that they're not. They're not. They don't have our back. I'm going to see if, she's in Virginia. Okay. Does anybody know anything about Virginia right off the top of their head?
I'm in Virginia, and I have the majority of my homeschool counterparts are religious exempt. And as far as I know, they have no difficulty with it. There's no kickback. Even in my recommendation is even in religious exemption, which I haven't been religious exemption, and I never explored it until this year when the pandemic hit. So I'm like, I need to be putting some things in place because I see a lot of things coming down the pike that's political, nothing to do with homeschool. Well, will backfire on homeschool, but they have no problem with it. I would just recommend that parents still test regardless, just for your own sake. You don't have to report it into the Board of Education if your religion is exempt, but just have something where you record in case legislation turns somewhere down the road, you'll have, some records to be able to prove, yeah, they're passing, they're getting it, they're understanding all of that, just to safeguard yourself. And that's how I would set that up. But I've not had any parents, any friends who are having any difficulty whatsoever. And I would say the majority are religious exempt.
So does the religious exemption keep them from having to do the standardized testing? What does it protect them from?
So the religious exemption just gets you free from having to submit testing and report anything. So you basically become like a Texan.
Okay.
So you don't have to report anything. You just remove yourself from the whole system. I don't have to, file certain things every year like the rest of us do. Okay.
So what I would say, what I'm hearing from you more than anything else is that she said, thank you, Kizzy, by the way. What I'm hearing from you is that you do have that exemption, but maybe not. That's not what I'm hearing. This is what I'm saying. Let's put it that way. I would suggest that you check with other people to see how the exemption has affected them as far as a target on your back. I feel like as homeschoolers, we kind of put a target on our back anyway, right? Like, unfortunately, for us, we're entrepreneurs and homeschoolers. And so we have like double target. People are looking for us like, oh, how y'all living? They always trying to count our pockets. Don't count our pockets. We okay. We eating, we got lights, we got a home. We're good, right?
Pay my bills.
Yeah. But people are always trying to count our pockets. And so I think in that instance, it's like, before we jumped and went to the whole entrepreneurship, even though, and see, that's a lie. I was getting ready to lie. My husband heard from God. He knew what was supposed to happen. It was me. I was like, I'm supposed to quit my job and do what? I mean, you do understand how much money I'm making, right? You do understand I'm up for a promotion, right? This very thing I've been fighting for years. Are you sure? So I would say do the research. And if you're being led to do the exemption, then do the exemption. I mean, it is what it is. Do what you got to do to educate your children.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
would say also that the homeschoolers came under attack within the pandemic
Mhm.
as well across the United States altogether. But one thing that people fail to realize is just because the children were distance learning and remote learning does not make them homeschoolers. It's
Listen.
two different things altogether. But now that we're all looped into the same same
Exactly.
process, they're
Yeah.
saying, well, the kids aren't learning, they aren't getting anything at home, this system isn't working. No, your system isn't working because that's not homeschool. Ours is working. We have elected to do this. You guys were just thrown under the bus with this whole thing that just dropped in your lap. Suddenly, you can't compare the two. And now regulations and legislation is happening talking about homeschooling is unsuccessful, it's not working. It meant the headlines everywhere across the United States, but it's not the same thing.
They're not homeschooling. They are not homeschooling.
I hate that. Even on the reality shows and all these other stuff, like Married to Meriton, that's the first one that came to my mind. One of the moms, Toya, said, this is why homeschooling is dumb. It doesn't work. You're not homeschooling. Your kids were doing virtual school at home.
Right.
I was about to say
I just feel like that's a fight. Every time we turn around, I can't homeschool.
That's
and
right.
sitting in front of the screen 6 hours and trying to keep them engaged is not the same thing.
That was one of the things I had to say to them when I was going through, like when I was doing the homeschool boot camp. I had to explain to them, you guys are not homeschooling. Our kids don't sit in front of a screen 6 to 7 hours a day. Our kids are done within 3 to 4 hours, or whatever the case may be. There's other things that they're doing. Homeschooling is a lifestyle. It's not just sitting in front of a Zoom meeting and listening to a teacher. So, I mean, this is a good conversation, but y'all, I already told you, I ain't gonna keep everybody long. It's late. Kizzy said it's past her bedtime. Let me get in bed. So I'm gonna go around the round table and give you you can say whatever you want, you can give a nugget, you have something to comment, you can, then also tell them how they can follow you or contact you if they have any questions. So I'm gonna start with the top of my screen, and that's Kizzy.
Okay, I would say piggybacking on something that was said earlier when the decision was made to withdraw their child and put them back in public school. If you're feeling like you are uncertain about if this journey is for you, I would say before you throw in the towel and give up, find yourself a support group, a support system, or a network, a tribe of some people who are like-minded, because that gives you strength to continue to stick to your why and your mission and your family goals. So definitely find that support system. So whether family agrees or not, friends agree, if you find like-minded people, that just fortifies your decision and allows you to stand on a firm foundation to continue to stand for what you believe.
That's good stuff. How can they follow you, Kizzy?
KizzyStatenGray.com, or in all social media, Kizzy Staten Gray.
Okay, Staten is spelled Staten, just in case you can't see it on the screen and you're like me and you can't spell. Okay, all right, and Jania, you are next.
I guess my nugget or bit of wisdom for parents that are experiencing people questioning whether their children are learning or why they're homeschooling in the first place, just remember that those questions are usually asked out of pure ignorance. And because you, as the parent educator, you've done your research, right? You've researched the laws, you've researched and studied your children. I always tell parents, you know your child best. So you know how they learn, you know what environment is good for them. They are your children. And so just remember that when people question you about things, don't get upset. Just know that it's usually out of ignorance. And as Kizzy said, remember your why, because that's going to keep you going. Mm-hmm. You can definitely connect with me at Kids and Culture Camp on Instagram, and then Kids and Culture for Facebook, and kidsandculture.com is our website.
Okay. All right. And Kimberly, you're next.
Hey, y'all. Just going to let y'all know my thoughts haven't changed. Healthy boundaries. Don't be afraid to cut them people off. Tell them bye. That's just it. You can follow me on Instagram at the Southern Mocha Homeschooling Mom.
All right. And Miss Kiyana Thomas.
Hello, everyone. Look, I was sitting here trying to follow everybody.
Yeah, we all should do that. Listen, while you playing, let me go. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Exactly. Make sure we're following everybody. Hey guys, I'm Kiyana Thomas, homeschool mompreneur. And I would say one thing that I want to leave with everyone today is to give yourself grace. You will constantly hear me say that. We as moms have so many hats that we wear. We're super women. We're trying to do it all. Even if you don't consider yourself a superwoman, the fact that you are a mother, you are a superwoman. And so with that being said, that comes with a lot of responsibility. We put so much pressure on ourselves. So give yourself grace. If you've decided to homeschool, if you haven't decided to homeschool, if you don't know what to do, just give yourself grace. Know that you are okay. It is well. This conference will help you develop whatever it is that you need to figure out the next steps with you and your family. The last thing I want to say, along with everyone else with figuring out your why, it's really important when you start homeschooling to create a homeschool vision and mission for your homeschool. When you create that mission, when things start getting tough for you, when you're like, why did I do this? You can pull that baby out and read it. And you can just remind yourself of all of the reasons, all of the things that you said in the beginning when it was still good to you, right? When it was still like, oh, I'm so happy I'm
Honeymoon
homeschooling.
stage, yeah.
Right. When you had all that excitement. When that excitement goes away and you need a refresher and a reminder, just like the lady said, with connecting with community and figuring out your why, that mission, that vision will keep you centered and grounded.
Yeah.
With that, I'm complete. Peace and blessings.
All right. So, and you can follow her. I'm gonna tell you, you can follow her at I am Kiyana Thomas. Her name is spelled Kiyana. My niece's name is Kiyana, but her is spelled, it's spelled different. I get confused. But listen, y'all, I am your host, Sean Taylor, aka Sean the Homeschool Guru. I am so excited that you guys joined me. This was supposed to be. I appreciate every single one of you. Kizzy, you were here for a reason. Jania, Kimberly, Kiyana, you were here for a reason for this conversation. And I appreciate you. I'm trying to think of what I was going to say. You can follow me at, no, I'm playing. I was trying to think of something else I was going to say. Two things. One in particular, Kiyana said the grace. One of my mottos is grace, not perfection. And I have to remind myself that consistently. Grace, not perfection. Grace, not perfection. And then the second thing is that brand new mercies in the morning. And there are days when I'm homeschooling my lovely babies who are doing nothing but being babies and getting on my nerves. I have to remind myself that when I wake up in the morning, it's a brand new day, fresh new start, and it's going to be okay. And so in those dark moments when it's frustrating, remember brand new mercies and remember grace, not perfection. We're not perfect. There's no way for us to be perfect. So we shouldn't even be trying to accomplish that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here. The ladies, we're going to stay on here for a quick second. But you guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Meet us here tomorrow at 12 p.m. Same Zoom link. I don't know what we're talking about. The ladies will tell me because they're amazing.
Working and homeschooling.
Working and homeschooling is 12. That's what that is tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, well, you're going to have to remind me again because you know I'm going to forget y'all. But anyway, we'll be back tomorrow at 12 o'clock, the same Zoom link. Hopefully, we'll have even more speakers. My goal is to hopefully get all the speakers on at least one panel, all of us together. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we gonna wish and pray and hope, okay? So I'm going to disconnect us from Facebook. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Ladies, stay on for me real quick. All right, and we're done. Let me stop recording. If I can figure out how to do it. I don't know. There we go. Stop.